IP, IP,
IP,
IP, IP,
IP,
IP, IP. Welcome to IP series, home to all things IP related, where I give you the stories, tips, and implications to business and creative decision concerning your intangible assets with real life case study. I am your host, Rita Anri Chinda. Subscribe and turn on your notification so you don't miss an episode. Cheers, guys.
I was asked, just start with your name. What do you do, where you based, and how you got into fashion.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to say thank you, Rita, for inviting me and bringing me on your podcast. Really, it's a privilege to be, one of your guests, right? So yes, my name is Bernice Asein. I'm a fashion and startup lawyer. I'm the founder of Fashion Law Institute Nigeria, one of the foremost or the first fashion law institutes in Africa. I'm also the lead
Wow.
counsel at, Cardinal Counsel, a business-oriented law firm for startups, business, and creative entrepreneurs. And additionally, I'm also the founder of a legal tech platform called Be Legal, where, startup founders, SMEs, and creative looking to establish their business across Africa can actually set up their business through the platform. Right. So I'm a lawyer based in Lagos, Nigeria.
I'm speaking to a founder. Hey, people say that's why I like to invite people on this kind of people so that my portfolio will just be rising. Like, well, I've spoken to this founder. Her name is Bernie. So yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you get into the fashion space? How did you start specializing in fashion?
So basically, I like to tell this story, right? Right from my undergraduate days, even before I got into the university, I was already designing. I was a self-taught designer. And, when I got into the university, I was doing that as a side hustle. And during that time, I got to showcase in various fashion week. I was one of the showcasing fashion designers at the Nigerian Student Fashion and Design Week. And after that, I got interviewed by a fashion lawyer, and I kept on asking myself if, that was what I wanted to do, right? And fashion law just kept on popping up, and I decided that okay, since I'm not going to exactly do fashion full time, I needed to combine the two. I didn't see myself not practicing law, and I didn't see myself not playing also in the fashion space. And because of the exposure that I got through attending conferences, especially fashion related conferences, right, I decided that okay, I needed to play in that particular space. And fashion law was it for me, because when I started researching on it, it was like the next thing for me, because one of my passions is actually fashion, and there's also law that I'm also passionate about. So it was just easy for me to fuse it together and start. And after graduating from school, working in a law firm, I just realized that there was a gap in the fashion industry that needed to be filled. There was a knowledge gap when it comes to understanding the legal requirements to run a proper fashion business. There was really no fashion business that we could say, oh, had the structure that other fashion business could look at. It was either one man or, so I decided that was what I wanted to do. And intellectual property was a way to start. But, after delving into intellectual property, I just realized that the field is bigger. There's so much more to do in the fashion law space than just intellectual property. So that's how I started, and then I started my firm, and we have like a department dedicated to fashion practice, right? And that was it for me.
Wow, very, very inspiring. I don't know what I was doing when my mates were finding, hustle and
Please,
and
you were doing
you
IP,
already
because I mean,
you already designing. I don't have see other than this one. If like for instance, now my sister bakes. The other one likes to beat. She has passion for plenty. I'm all just reading book and I'm like, this book here is reading. Look at what people like Benny are doing, but it's okay. It's okay.
but I mean, right now we're not even
So,
using it to see the book work we're doing, right? Oh,
oh, oh,
yeah.
but yeah, what is fashion law for someone who is trying to find their faith in terms of specialization, whether say I don't want to say young lawyer, seriously. Let's just say someone that is trying to um redirect their career path. What is fashion law?
So I think that for me, fashion law in its simplest form is basically the law that applies to the entirety of the fashion value chain in the fashion industry, starting from farming to when the final product gets to the consumer. So all of the things that it takes to build a fashion related product is any law that is involved in those processes, right? Is fashion law. So it can be intellectual property, it can be contracts, it can be employment laws, it can be compliance, it can also be sustainability, any law that really applies to the fashion industry in general, that affects the fashion industry and its operation. It's fashion law, to be honest.
Just like that. Eh? Yeah, see how easy it's sounding in your mouth, though, but we know that we know that it's not easy. So
Oh
just
my
tell
god.
us a bit about
So anytime people
tell us
reach
a
out
bit
to
about the regulatory framework. Yeah, I'm listening. Carry on. You carry on.
uh, uh, okay, yeah, I was earlier saying that, like, every time somebody reached out to me about fashion law and I tell them in the basic terms, this is what it is, they're like, is this it? I'm like, yes, it is. Of course there are complexities, like there are things you have to understand, like every other area of law. Not anything that is out of the ordinary, right? Yes, principles and all of this, but fashion industry is different, but I mean, it's still the basic principle of law that applies. So it's not anything so complex that a lawyer with legal knowledge and legal training cannot grasp, right? So yes, the regulatory framework in the fashion space. Of course, we know the very foremost law, and that's intellectual property. We have the Copyright Act. We have, trademarks. Yeah, trademark, patent and designs. Those are like the basic law that starts as the bedrock for the fashion industry, because creativity is the bedrock or the foundation, right? So those are the laws that we consider at first. But there is also, of course, because fashion is also a business, there is the Company and Allied Matters Act, that's KAMA. We have the startup law because there's the emergence of startup technology companies. That's companies that are using technology to transform and disrupt the fashion industry. So the Nigerian Startup Act actually applies to the fashion industry. There is also the AMCON Act, the advertising regulation, right? Because now they are saying that because they want to promote local content, they have to regulate advertising. So advertising is a major part of the fashion industry. There's also one law that we don't even mention. Most people don't refer to, and that's the National Environmental Regulation. It deals with textile, footwear and leather and all of those things. So this particular law, governs pollution of the textile industry. You get what we call sustainability and all of that, the waste, how to control waste and pollution of the society through or by the textile industry, right? That particular law governs that area. There's also, which one can I remember now? There's also various policies, right? There's also some I think oh my god, is the network gone again?
No, you said various policies. So I'll go to the various policies. You don't just
So so okay, so I don't know if we heard about the blockchain adoption, right? That everybody has been celebrating for the past few weeks, right? So there's the fashion industry also have that, the national fashion policy. So this policy is basically the government coming together to say we have to take initiative to promote certain things about the fashion industry. For instance, I know made in Nigeria or Nigerian wears. I don't know if you see if you look at the civil service, right? They wear Ankara. As when you go there, it's not, you see that they are wearing traditional local made clothes, Ankara and the likes. That's because of the Nigerian fashion policy that allows, because the government wants to promote, yes, local products or locally made dresses and, crafts, they say that they would have to encourage, wearing of these wears instead of corporate wears. So when you see this, when you go to the civil service and see that people are wearing, just used to wearing Ankara, you see your newscasters, they're wearing Ankara. It's because of the policy that was actually, brought into place to say, oh, let's encourage local industries, people who are, manufacturing, or all of these things. There's also the creative industry financing initiative by the CBN. Basically, they want Nigeria to move from an oil-based, dependent economy to, something that can be diversified, and the creative industry is part of it. So this particular initiative talks about making financing available for the fashion industry. I know also that there is the act coming up that they are still trying to deliberate and propose to the House of Assembly. So just like the way the Startup Act is, where there is now funding, a structure, a regulatory body, and the likes. For the fashion industry and the creative industry, it is also in the works, right? They are trying to get a regulatory body. They are trying to get a body that would also provide financing to, startup businesses that's in the creative space, fashion design to be precise. If, it falls under that, then yes, basically, these are like the policies that, I remember. There's also the Nigerian cultural policy. There's also the new law. Yes, there's also this particular law that was enacted recently about the leather. I can't remember the law now. These things are always long and putting them. So I know it's about the Nigerian Institute of Leather, right? There is a new act that encourages people to go into leather making, because leather making is a major source of revenue for the government. So it's an institute that train people in that art, and also they also form like stakeholder, advocating for policies for the fashion industry. So that also plays in, I think, those are like major laws, playing in the fashion industry that affects us directly. There is still a clamor for regulation, because, I mean, the fashion industry does not have an act that is dedicated to its operation. It is self-regulated, and because of all of this unstructured activities, right, it's difficult for us to actually get the best. For me, I feel like law exists to make the best of everything. I feel like the Nigerian fashion industry is not at the best because there is really no law guiding a lot of things. For instance, if you look at UK, if you want to set up a modeling agency, there are processes you have to go through, because this is human rights. Models and child models become models, right? They become employees. What kind of safeguards do you have in place? What kind of safeguards does the law put in place? I know that there are series of checks that has to go in place when it comes to UK setting up a modeling agency. But here in Nigeria, people just go into the streets, scout for models, put them there, get them to sign contracts. Nobody knows somebody is less than 18. They're entering into contracts. This can also lead to child trafficking. We don't have regulations that really governs the fashion industry. Even the Copyright Act and all of the other acts that exist do not exactly take care of the needs of the fashion industry, because the fashion industry is special. There are certain things that are peculiar to the fashion industry that general or generic legislation cannot actually take care of. So there is need for special regulation, holistic regulation, but we don't have it. But I guess that is why the Fashion Law Institute exists, to serve as this stakeholder to advocate for policies that makes it better for the fashion industry. There is also the gap in fashion education. We really do not have a proper curriculum to onboard fashion professionals in Nigeria. So those are like gaps that I know that we need to fill, and once more lawyers are coming into the space, I mean, it's going to bring up a lot of innovation, ideas, and all of that. So
Wow, Benny. It's my mind, and I'm like,
Need to go and
take my stuff really seriously, because all these long laws you're mentioning. Thank you for telling us. But then let's discuss fashion case. What is the top fashion case currently in Nigeria? I have one in mind. I'm currently working on it for my IP series. You should have gone last
No, you're going to tell me this one.
You're going to tell me this one, to
we
be
get
honest.
because by
This one.
I've already done. Basically, they're part of
Once you publish, I
everybody's
would follow
history
suit.
conclusions.
Oh my god, I'm currently researching.
Oh gosh. Um, so it's about
I was pretty lucky that this is not what you're going to talk about.
We're connecting.
I
Hello,
can hear
Rita.
you now.
Is it the one on the other round?
Swear to God, like 3 days, fam. The whole thing is just going brah, brah, and I'm just reading comments. I'm like, okay, okay.
Yes, I saw it on
I should
Twitter.
have I should have done that like on Sunday, but Hilda was trending. I was like, let me do
Exactly, you know.
yes. Let me do Hilda. This one will just get lost in the whole Hilda Cookathon thing. And I dropped my Hilda and I'm so glad I did that. But that's like the first case that, kind of throws more light on why smaller fashion brands have to start taking fashion law seriously. You may not take the IP after, but you need to take certain and all the frameworks you mentioned into consideration because so I had a previous conversation with someone in the film industry, and he mentioned something in the US that they do. They have like the big film companies have like their own registry where they kind of monitor and regulate what each party does. And I'm like, this thing will actually bang hell if we take it serious. But everybody wants to be chairman, addressed as
Yes, yes, yes.
chairman of this. So then, so what would you say to you is like your top fashion brand for 2023? Sorry,
Hi, can you hear me?
top fashion dispute, top fashion case for 2023.
Wow, 2023.
Okay, let's do in the last 1 year. I think that's safer now.
In the last 1 year, the
Oh
top
yeah, let's do
fashion throwback. So I feel like the one that caught everybody's attention, that I know that, I honestly wanted to see to the end to at least get a ruling, because that's what increases the value of all of these things we are talking about. That's the Ibu case for me, that I think
Law and its importance
to the
was the Ebuka.
case, right? For me, it had the wave and it carried everybody along, because we saw the dress, we loved the dress, see that we made it, everybody was involved, everybody wanted to see like the solution, people wanted a solution. So I saw that and it was amazing, because I don't know if this part is true, but I know that I heard that they infringed on the Agbada. That was the problem. It was the fact that they came to get Nigerian tailors to actually make that Agbada. It wasn't that, oh, they made it over there and they did it, and it wasn't that. It was the fact that they still came to Nigeria to meet
Interesting. Not sure I heard about that, but I think it's really interesting.
yes, and it's crazy,
Yeah.
to be honest. And I know that Visco has also had some, disputes, but has it really gone to court? Most of these matters just, they're just initial dragging online, call out, and that's it basically. So because we do not have major rulings on all of these cases, it's all have that area of law. I mean, it's the more people, the more they deliberate on the matter. That's what increases the value of what we're. Because people are not, everybody's going to drag online and keep quiet. So this person is stealing my design, and that's it, basically. Nobody exact. That's why we do not have cases. We rarely have. So anybody who's talking about fashion law, they are just talking about the international scene. There is really nothing decisive here, right? So that's why we are creating this awareness around it, so that people can know their rights and know that it's also enforceable. It's wanting to know and do the right thing, and it's wanting to also go to court to enforce this right. It's not everything that you hear. Sorry, sometimes you really need to go to courts. We need that. We need those ruling for the industry.
I
Yeah.
agree with you. I do agree with you. I think another one though not Nigerian, but I think if you look at it from the what I ordered against what I got, you'll get. So you're
Yes,
like,
yes, yes.
and then the internet is not making people, start. I mean, be curious about this aspect of the law. What is really how does the law affect my business? Because when I read that Ore case on Twitter,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So there's
I mean, people know
the
terms, but they just don't know how to associate it to what they actually do. Okay, so I was saying that I've handled where we this business registered in January, and the same somebody else has used the name to register a business in December of the preceding year. So they started the business. They said they went to launch in January. No, they said they went to launch in April, right? And I told them right from January, let's get the trademark, let's get the CAC, let's get everything. And we did all of those things. However, after launch, we realized that there was another business that has already been existing that did not register.
Wow.
Yes, to be honest, all the search. I mean, when we did search on this site, if the business was registered, we would have seen it and changed the name. But we registered this business, we registered this fashion brand. Everything was going well until few weeks after the launch of the business. People were searching for the name on Instagram and they saw that the name was popping up. And they're like, which brand is this? And then we realized that it's a different brand with the same name. You get different owners, and we had to send a takedown a notice, of course, because we are registered, we have a trademark. So even if you have been there since although that business was launched a month before we launched, but we took the initiative of going to register first. So there's also the game of priority, right? So as much as we are all trying to be creative, people might come up. There's a possibility that people might come up with the same ideas. We're in the fashion space. We are almost inspired by almost the same thing. So it is important for fashion brands to take proactive step. If you come up with a very unique name, go and register it. Even if you want to do the business in 2 years' time, because 2 years' time somebody else would have done it, and that name you have to change it. So it's very important to take proactive step as a fashion brand.
So if you're a fashion designer listening to Benny, people should hear what Benny said.
Lawyers too. Yes.
Lawyers too. Share this episode with that fashion designer that is your friend. Let them help their ministry. I say they should help their ministry now, because the more enlightened we are, we're going to avoid all of these pitfalls. I've also had to so I had a conversation with a fashion
citizens. Like, when I go to just taking my time, like, okay, first to find is going well, and tomorrow we'll start hearing
bed story
But
now what is it they happen, no worry. Let's move on to the next one. So my next question is, how can those in the fashion industry actually position themselves? I mean, people like Ore Crochet, upcoming fashion designers and brands, how can they really position themselves?
So I think
they can actually position themselves is getting their legals right, because
there's nothing you're talking about. Orange.
So it's important to get the foundations right, and legals are part of them. So aside just registering your business, it's important to actually trademark these things, do your industrial design, engage a lawyer to do like a holistic checklist of what you're supposed to do to be compliant, and then you'll be able to reduce
infringement. Because I know a lot of top brands, right? Top brands from Clan to Diola Sego to LDA. Those brands to Andrea Yama, they invest heavy in lawyers. In fact, they are represented by the top law firms. So if those people can actually be putting this in place, I'm not saying, of course, a small business may not have that budget, but I mean, there are lawyers who are coming on space I can engage to help you out, to be, positioned to
Now, with the emergence of technology, it's difficult. It's very easy, rather, to replicate designs. It is difficult to see something
and create it in seconds. It's difficult. Even before you're thinking it, imagine you thought about the ORS case. I was already thinking of.
I had the screenshots. I saw it on Twitter.
I was thinking about couching a post. You were thinking about it at the same time. And then, we post it and it will look like, oh, it's copied. But to be honest, we independently talked about this thing separately. Do you get it? So it is very important
between intellectual property and fashion law, because for me, IP is like the foundation of every sector, whether you people like it or not. If you claim that people will stand alone, that's your business. But you forget that you need to rely on the human intellect, which is the intangible assets that rely on intellectual property for protection. So, what is that relationship between IP and fashion law?
Like I said earlier, right? Intellectual property is the foundation, is a major pillar of fashion industry. There's no fashion industry without intellectual property. Everybody is creative. Everybody is trying to put out products. Of course, I mean, like you also said, property is the foundation of most or even all industries that we have. Somebody comes up with an idea and tries to market it, right? So there is that relationship, and for the industry to expand, adequate intellectual property laws in place to actually protect this rights of designers and business people. So it's very important that we have intellectual property in place or playing that role. We acknowledge that intellectual property is holds that key place in the fashion space. The reason why I say that it is not the only or it's not a part is because it is a mix. People just think that the only service you can render in the fashion is intellectual property as lawyer. That is not true. There's so much more that could be done. There's a place where you have to come up with sustainability policy for companies, and that's not intellectual property. That's you looking at social issue and saying this is how we are going to solve it. When it comes to waste colonialism, for instance, where we have white people coming to dump their waste here, their fashion waste here in Nigeria. If we are drafting all of these laws, it's not intellectual property we're talking about now. We're talking about how to restrict fashion brands for producing more than they can sell or more than their consumers can actually consume. These are like conversations that require different level of skill set. When we talk about diversity and inclusion, that's not IP. This is us trying to embrace other things. So when we say that, IP is not exactly, it's not that we're trying to discredit its place. Of course, we understand that it's foundation, but it is acknowledging that we can provide other services in the fashion industry than IP and trademark. Because when you say, I'm consulting for a fashion brand, they think, it's trademark you are doing. But it's more than that. Sometimes you have to sit in, like today, for instance, I had to sit in meetings listening to a startup founder in the fashion space talking about their plans and everything. And it was not IP we were talking about. We were talking about how to milk our assets, of course, to raise revenue. It wasn't exactly, it was about coordinating the team. It was employment contract. It was trying to get people to work, partnering with brands and all of those things. It was IP at the foundation, but there was so much more conversation. So when lawyers are coming in, why IP is a very good skill for you to have, that's a starter. You should know those things. Understanding the fashion, understanding, their terms. Like today they were talking and I was almost lost. T1, T2, T everything. I was just like, whoa, you guys, it's a lot that I know, but you really have to understand the business of it. You get, you would have to take your way. Yes, now sometimes I have to see myself in meetings. I'm like, oh my God, let me just do quick Google search so that I don't forget that this is what they're talking about, because I'm lost. When they ask me, I'm like, oh my God. When they talk about valuation, I'm like, guy, I'm a lawyer. How am I here now? But they are asking you because they expect.
Forgotten. They said lawyers are learned. Is it people that know books? So you must know it.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the major reason why I advocate for. I'll say when they say lawyer, that's why I like specialization, because specialization makes you know that everybody knows that. I beg, disclaimer, this is the only part that I know. This is the part that I know that you can ask me. Any other part is you have to come tomorrow. Do you get it?
Any other part?
Come
We're not
tomorrow.
Tolodo, but we're not Tolodo in any other part. We are not just orgas in those sites. But I get you. I get you.
Yeah, we know where to find it. It's just that we don't know it on the top of our fingers.
Yeah. So when you mention of terminology, you're mentioning T1, and I was like, then you tell me the terminologies that I need to look out for in a contract. What kind of contract do I need to sign or do a fashion design? I'm not going to say do I, because I'm not a fashion designer like Bernice. But sometimes if they come and draft this fashion agreement, and I'm like, Eddie's doing their colleagues to come and sit down here and work.
So
So what kind of contract?
There are a lot of contracts, right? Depending on the kind of companies that are involved, the brands that are involved. I know I can talk about fashion startups, for instance. We know the general contracts, but like for fashion startups, right, there will be a lot of brand partnership contracts, because they are technically creating a platform for other fashion players. So there will be a lot of partnerships, right? For instance, there will be, if it's an e-commerce platform, they want other brands to come and list their products on that particular platform, right? You need to enter into either a brand partnership agreement or, collaboration agreement, whatever it is, depending on the terms, right? There will be a lot of, refund policy. You have to understand the fashion brands, their refund policy, and then the platform itself has to have refund policies also, and they have to actually synchronize all of those things. Their payment terms, right? Some fashion brands want to receive their payment almost immediately, but sometimes a lot of fashion technologies will have to take time, because they use technologies like Paystack, they use Flutterwave, and Flutterwave does not pay you almost immediately. It doesn't drop in your account. It will take like a day or two before the money drops. So you have to have agreement to say that, you'll be doing your settlement at the end of every week. All of these things have to be stated in contract before designers will come and be dragging you. You also have to have a listing policy. If I want to list a fashion brand on my platform, what are the listing requirements, right? There are certain pictures that you cannot upload. There are certain quality types, the way it looks. With the new Ancon Act, of course, you cannot be using white models, and you can't be using those kind of pictures. You have to use indigenous models. You can't use foreign models. You have to use Nigerian models. So do you have that as your listing requirement? There's also return exchange, and return policy is in line with the FCCPC, that's the Federal Consumer Protection Act, and all of those things. So you have to look at all those policies, right? They are very useful for fashion brands that use technology to list on a particular platform. Then there's also if you are an independent brand and you're outsourcing your production, you also need manufacturer's agreement or production agreement. If you have an independent in-house if you have an independent creative director, you will need an employment contract. If you have staffs, you need employment contract. It is very important. If you are in the modeling industry and you are employing, you're signing in underage models, like people below 18. Of course, you have to get guardian's consent. You can't just carry somebody who is less than 18 to say you want to. That's like, so you have to get consent. You have to get get them to sign a contract. If you're a model, you also have to understand basic contracts. There are different types of contracts, right? There is I'm trying to remember all of those, right? There's also confidentiality.
Don't give them explain. Let them come and pay you. And that's how you make your money as a lawyer. Come and pay. Let's draft the agreement for you.
Yeah, let's draft it, right? It's very interesting because I know that.
Okay. Carry on.
So like the major work we really do is contract drafting because of the fact that there are really no laws to stipulate basic, expectations, right? Contract is everything. People are relating with people. There is designers, stylists, photographers, influencers, endorsement deals everywhere. There is a lot of contractual agreements that needs to go in place. So like lawyers are constantly drafting in the fashion industry. It is like the core. After protecting their IPs, contract is the next thing that follows, right? As the next
let me help you and drag their ear from. I'm dragging all the fashion designers' ear on your behalf. I'm dragging my ear and it's paining me. So you see that's why I had to beg Bernice. Bernice, come now. Bernice agreed. Thank you, Bernice, for agreeing to come and tell them this part. After IP documentation, and you're very correct when you talk about documentation is the key, and it defines your relationship. It gives you control. It lets you know your stance, all of those things in place. But Nigerians, we still have a long way to go in terms of appreciating service providers, but it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
okay.
I mean, I feel like that's where lawyers also come in place. Like lawyers, especially people playing in fashion education, they have to educate the audience. Unlike other industries where the industry is ready, they know what they want, they know that there are regulations, they know there are laws that they have to follow. The fashion industry doesn't have anything. So we are as good as teachers, lawyers. We are teaching people to understand why they. In fact, when I
So
started fashion law,
after they teach you in school, you come and teach other people what they
yes,
taught you.
like for you, yes,
People
they
are
can't
special.
buy your.
Lawyers are special.
Yeah, they can't buy your. Imagine telling somebody they can't buy your service if they don't have the knowledge, if they don't know what the value it brings to them. They won't pay, they won't buy. So, but I realized that the more you teach, the more they realize that there is a problem that they need to solve. And then, the more lawyers are coming into the space and they're talking about fashion law, fashion policy, fashion education, they would be wanting to know more, and it causes confusion in them, and they always want to reach out to a lawyer. So right now, because I talk about fashion law a lot, all the fashion people around me, even when it is down to the smallest thing that maybe they don't even need a lawyer, they would want to be sure that they don't need a lawyer by asking that, okay, are you sure that I don't need a lawyer for this? Exactly. So like you need to educate and create a lot of. The more you put out information, it confuses them, right? They're like, oh my god, too much information. Then they will now need clarity, and that's where the lawyer has to come in, and then your service comes in. Once you say, oh, we talk about other intellectual property in food, we're just creating a lot of information and confusion. It makes them want to get it right, and then they will call a lawyer. But anything, they're not called. Is going fine business as usual. They won't come. We would not make money as lawyers.
Please, we will make money.
We will make money.
Don't say nothing.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that like if they don't come or. But then again, we have to play our part by educating. We have to educate.
Totally, I agree with you. So while you're stressing on education, Benny in her introduction talked about her Fashion Law Institute. So I saw on your page that you have a training coming up. I was opportunity to attend that training last year. And the funny thing, the day you were doing that training, I was supposed to speak at another event.
Wow.
But they needed me to be there physically. I've paid for training, my money will not disappear like that. Let's try again next year. So if you're listening, if you're based in Lagos, if you're based in Lagos, people travel, go and learn and come back and meet me here in Port Harcourt. And let's chop your money soon. So Benny will tell you more about that conversation. Who are the relevant stakeholders in the fashion industry?
So like I think everybody is a stakeholder. The consumers of fashion, the consumers of fashion are like one of the biggest stakeholders in the fashion industry, because every product that goes out there affects them, That's why the issue of data privacy and all of that is, buzzing, because consumers need to be protected. So they are a major stakeholder. When we're talking about everything, we're talking about the consumer, because they're the ones that will buy the product. They're the ones that it would eventually affect, and all of that. So they are like the major stakeholder. There's also the fashion designers, right? People who create this value. They are part of the stakeholding committee. There's also models, retailers, manufacturers, distributors, fashion houses, fashion associations. Although people are learning to, create communities now, like there are a lot of fashion communities across Nigeria and Africa, which is a good thing. So yes, I can say fashion communities too. They form a major part of this also. There are fashion associations, right? But like you said before, everybody wants to be thing. So we see ourselves operating in silos. Everybody's doing their own thing. So nobody's coming together to say, let us do this. Yes, I have cliques of fashion professionals that are coming together to do stuff, which is really amazing, right? They see the need for us to work together to create an ecosystem that works, right? So it is good, but from now I know fashion industry and fashion associations that just work on their related to anybody. They are there. So so we have regulatory agencies too. They are a major part of this, and they play a major role in forming the fashion ecosystem. So it's not like the major stakeholders that are relevant. And the Fashion Law Institute is also a stakeholder, because we are one of our major objectives is policy advocacy for the fashion industry. So more than just talking about the need for fashion designers to that lawyers play a role in the fashion space, we are also advocating for policies, better policies for the fashion industry as a whole. In the coming year, you will see us writing policy papers, proposing certain legislation, for the government to enact, if possible, writing white papers on what we think is the best practice for the Nigerian fashion space. So we are also a stakeholder. My point.
Then you cannot be stakeholder. You are big madam. Big madam. Let me come and join you so that I will say a big stakeholder. How much is my share? Maybe Otedola will buy the shares in the fashion industry and we sell it back to you.
You
That
should
kind
come over. Well, the sad thing is, institute do not have shares. I mean, we don't have shares. We collect grants and collect, but we don't give shares.
You just told me now I am a stakeholder. Anyways, let's talk about trends to look out for in the fashion space. What are those trends in Nigeria and Africa? If you want to expand it now, what are those trends that are currently driving or going viral within the fashion space?
Oh, okay. So I think the trends that I've, that I see happening right now is the fact that people are incorporating technology into the day-to-day operations of fashion business. Like I said before, I represent about 2 to 3 fashion tech startups, right? All they have done is create a platform, a software that helps people to actually buy fashion, study habits of individuals, and say, oh, this is the habit, this is the fashion buying habit of somebody, and we can see that is how this person wants to buy fashion, and we are going to actually suggest clothes. I've seen people come up with platforms where designers and merchants can designers and businesses can actually list their services there, and people can easily find them. I know of Wala. Wala is actually a beauty startup, that allows beauty entrepreneurs to list their services on the platform, and you can easily find them and request for their services. So people are actually incorporating technology in the operations of their fashion business. There's also the part of digital fashion. A lot of times people are actually creating animations, right? Digital designs of, rather than create, actual physical products, they are creating digital versions of their designs, which is also in line with sustainability, because I mean they used to say that all this creativity is leading to waste, but digital fashion has helped to curb that, because all we have is the e-design of, or the animated design of that particular product you get. So we are seeing trends towards building technology, e-commerce platforms, artificial intelligence, digital fashion and illustrations and all of those things. So, I mean, the fashion industry is coming. We're not even there yet, but I know that trends around that area are like, stepping up.
Wrapping up in a couple of minutes, I just wanted to find out from you, what is the best mode for resolving and like a fast fashion, let's call it calamity now, a fast fashion industry within the Nigerian space.
Okay, so I think the fastest way to resolving disputes in the fashion industry is, of course, alternative dispute resolution, right? Mediation, arbitration, negotiation, and all of those things. Those are like, depending on the scale, that's the best way and the fastest way to do it. However, we need people to go to court. We don't mean this in a bad way. Like I said, we don't mean it in a bad way. We just need to improve the system. We need precedent sets. We need people to see that, yes, we need precedent sets, right? And that's how it increases the value. We need cases. We need to see people rule on particular sessions, right, that affects the fashion industry. Like, for instance, when it relates with AI, I think recently we're talking about the law that, the ruling of in the US that says that an AI is not capable of owning copyright. It's not capable of being a copyright holder or an author. Yes, so it is the human power that is imputed there and all of those. I can't remember what it is, but I know that it was saying that essentially an AI can't hold, copyright, can be an author and all of that. But the truth is, we need all of those landmark ruling to help shape, to answer questions of, that ponders on our hearts when it comes to the fashion industry. We need certain questions answered, and if we don't go to court, all of these things will not be answered. But anyway, I think the best mode is alternative dispute resolution. That's mediation, arbitration, negotiation, and all of those things, right? Settlement out of court, is the best, of course, especially when it comes to the Nigerian system. Abroad, it's easy to just jump to court to decide those things because their judgment is easy. Everything is fast, right? But here in Nigeria, it's very difficult. So it's difficult to actually get a date. It's difficult to, just run an entire litigation case. So it is always advisable to settle out of court, depending on the scope of the dispute, depending on the parties involved, depending on the budget of the parties, right? And what they want to achieve. So, however, we need people to go to court as usual to, so that the court can pronounce on certain sections of the law that, we require interpretation, because the court actually exists to interpret the law. If we don't go to court, there will be no interpretations of these laws, right? There will be no precedent set. So we need those things, people to go to court to, but then the best way and the most cost-effective time. That is.
Follow-up question before we wrap up is, do you think Nigeria has a market for fast fashion brands?
Oh yes. So I don't think that Nigeria has. Okay, do we have a market? Yes, we do.
Boys.
Abba boys are not. Abba boys are there, but I feel like they just lack structure. They are not. They're not exactly bad. They just need encouragement. We need to buy Abba. We need to buy, but the problem is they lack the premium, and they lack this premium quality attached to it. Do you get? Abba is not bad. Abba is made in Nigeria. It's not like it's of poor quality. Is that?
This guy, Nobu Igwe, I think that 2-3 years ago, he was
Yes.
doing this Made in Aba campaign. I don't know what.
Yes. He was telling the story of all of those things. So Abba is not bad, but the problem is the perception of Nigerians towards made in Nigeria, made in Aba is a problem. Do you get it? And of course, they are not helping matters. Even when their quality is good, they tend to copy designs. Because they want people to patronize them. They tend to copy designs. They tend to copy, yeah, so that they can have that acceptability among the crowd. But I don't think that Aba is the problem. In fact, the problem we have is the importation of secondhand clothes. People say that it promotes or it helps sustainability, but sustainability of who? Abroad people or the foreign people or foreign climes, not Nigeria. Or it controls waste. Definitely not Nigerian waste, only foreign waste. Because if people were wearing second clothes, you were wearing my dress, my mother was wearing, my clothes, where I can buy second hand from a Nigerian. That's a different conversation entirely. But if you're talking about importing second hand clothes, importing second hand fast fashion or waste, that's a problem. I don't think that Aba is the problem. I think importation of second-hand goods is the problem. It's what is killing us, because that's waste colonization in a sense. And people like to say that it's sustainability, but it is not sustainability because it is not our waste. Nigerians are and Africans are sustainable by practice, by culture. My mom, ideally, I wear my mother's clothes to work. All her corporate dresses, I inherit them because they are good qualities, right? So I do that. But telling me that, oh, I have to buy secondhand clothes from a foreign land, because of course they could not manage their production and their waste, and then telling me it's sustainable practice, I don't think it's fair on us Africans and Nigerians, to be honest. So Aba is not the problem. We just need infrastructure in place to help them. They need to be more creative. They need to be encouraged. They need to collaborate with the forward fashion people in Nigeria. We have a lot of brands doing great stuff, right? They have the manpower to produce at the level that we expect, that would serve our economy. They just need the creative edge. They just need to change the perception around them. You get? We need influencers to work more around those people. Aba can actually produce, the production that people go and outsource to China. Aba can actually do that, but we do not have the infrastructure, the funding, and all those things to make you work. So Aba is not a problem. Aba is not fast fashion. It's just the level at which they play. For me, it's not Shein. It's not, no, it's not.
Bernice is proudly Nigerian, and I'm happy that Abia now has a new governor. So maybe they'll really do something about that issue,
Yes,
because
yes, yes. I think that
moving
they
from
are
Port
moving.
Harcourt
Yes.
to Aba, moving from Port Harcourt to Aba is
Yeah, that's
different.
great. Yeah, I saw that they are now moving to help improve their factories, production of footwears and the likes. I think I saw that, and it's going to be a very good thing if they invest in that. It can be new China for us in Africa, not necessarily in a bad way, but
You're still calling China. Don't ask
no, no, no. I'm
Chinese. You just
saying
say I get what
in
you're
the
saying. But
in
just
the good way.
let's make it, yes, in a good way. Like we're moving from one regime to the next regime. We don't know what the next regime is going to be like, but I know for people in Aba, I have hope for them on their behalf.
Yes,
Oh, I have hope because I have to go all the way to Balogun or Yaba when I'm in Port Harcourt. So we have like a big market in Port Harcourt called Oil Mill Market. So you see people come all the way from Aba to come sell their goods. But now with the bad roads, it just
yes.
messes up a lot of things. So secondhand will always sell, but the government has to look inwards and say, okay, Nigeria to the world. We're already doing Nigeria entertainment to the world. We're doing a bit of Nigerian fashion to the world, but let's do it on a more global level. That when you're calling top fashion brands in the world, a product for a brand from Aba would be on the top 10, or you know, let's say top 50. So get.
Very true.
Um, yeah, but it's been a very, I love the conversation we had this night. So in closing, it's sad that I'm going to Mexico, but
Yes, that
how
too.
can we reach you if we want to have more conversation? If I mean I know how to reach you, but for people that say, ah, I heard about Bernice from Henry's podcast, how do I reach out to Bernice?
Oh wow. So if you want to reach out to
And
me, so
it means that you see, as I'm advertising your fashion institute, I'm not paying this year. After all this work I'm doing now, if I don't see my name on that list and I don't see my name in fashion institute, me and you will fight. We will fight. But tell us how we see you
Yes, we're all on our social media platform. The Fashion Law Institute Nigeria is on Instagram. You can search us on Instagram. You find us Fashion Law Institute. On Facebook, Fashion Law Institute. On Twitter, NFLI official, right? On LinkedIn, Fashion Law Institute. We're all there. And then my personal handles are like Bernice Asein on LinkedIn, Bernice Asein on Facebook, Bernice Asein on Twitter. Only on Instagram, I go by the name Legally Savvy _NG. I'm sure it will be very easy to be find.
For people that want to shoot their shot, avoid fashion. It is just go straight to legally savvy. That's where you see the main thing. Forget about
yes, you
fashion.
see us there everywhere.
So this is my last question now because I just thought about it now. Like Ben's are talking fashion. She even told me who is her favorite Nigerian fashion designer. That I don't need to go and look for a high street river island brand or a quiet luxury brand. I think quiet luxury brand is currently trending. I'm like, who are all these
Yeah.
influencers? People will just spring up something and before you know it's everywhere.
They want to just
Focus on
collect
the
our
Nigerian.
money.
You can imagine. So
They just
let's bring it back to
quiet luxury,
who is the
anything.
quiet luxury brand in Nigeria. Who is like your top female fashion designer, top male fashion? For me, after I said when I was in my teens, Maya Tako, like that guy, they treat me guy. Oh, leave am.
Yes, I really, really like him. I really like him a lot. He was one of the first people that I found that I listened to talk about the fashion industry. I like him
Yeah,
when he talks about intellectual property in the fashion space. He doesn't
yeah.
have any remorse. He says it. Infringement is infringement. There is nothing. There is nothing like I'm inspired by anybody. When you copy somebody, you've copied that you've infringed. So yes, I really, really like him. I really like him a lot. But then
Yes,
my
sorry. You're stressing the you really, really like. It's me that I mentioned him first. So now you're stressing the you really, really like. Move on to
so I have to
that.
say that we actually his surname, I would say it is an Edo man first and foremost,
Ah,
and I'm from Edo
sorry.
State. And
Sorry.
then
I give up.
we
I give up.
we have similar surnames. So like my mom's name is Oyimai, right? His surname is also Oyimai. So it's like the same family tree. This is me family
It's
him.
the way you're telling me you're more family. It's okay, don't worry. You can use the really, really like. I don't mind again. Carry on.
Well, yeah, I have no, but then I have to mention my top fashion designer in Nigeria is actually Andre Yama AI. That's what I
Love
call
her.
her. She's really good,
Yeah.
really sophisticated. Very. I was saying today, if I'm to wear when I hit the money that I want to make, I would
Hmm.
wear all Andre Yama's clothes because it is the vibe. It is quiet luxury. Do you get? It's money.
Oh,
Once you see the
you
dress, you
mentioned it
wear it.
already. That's you just slipped it in. It is the quiet luxury, and I agree with you. But yeah, you got two now, remaining three.
Yeah. And I am expert. Yeah. And there's so many.
Anytime I go for an event that I'm not wearing a Nigerian brand, I feel it in my spirit. Like
Hmm.
it's something that we need to incorporate.
Come and recommend for me now, so that when I
Brands
wear
and
it,
African
they'll
brands.
say, "Come
Don't
and
worry, we are doing
recommend
There's
for
so
me. Recommend
many.
for me,
I
so
mean,
that
we are
when I
lawyers,
wear
right?
it,
So we're lawyers. So there are many
hmm,
corporate wears. There is Ruby and Steel. There is Obuba. There are men.
uh-uh.
There's Lady by Biba or Lady Biba rather.
I
There is
love Lady
Victoria King.
Bagbo.
There are
Lady
many
Bagbo, her
brands.
corporate wear. When killing conference is coming, we need to look good. So
Yes,
just
so
send
we
me the
need to
link.
look good. I'll
Send me
send
the
you.
link after this so that I'm at the conference. But it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much. I hope you had a good time. Let's back and forth, the back and forth. Let's
Yes,
do it
I
again.
enjoy my time here. Thank you very much. Thank
Today
you.
the shyness disappeared. The shyness disappeared. You are not
Yes, you
shy
did.
again. Eh?
Oh wow! When am I
I coming on again, I beg?
Calm down, calm down. It's not easy.
I know
Let's
it's really
let's
not.
don't worry. Maybe we'll work something out where we can be like co-hosts, maybe for any other conversation. So just think on it. But you do the bulk of the work. I've been doing the bulk of the work for 3 years. First year will be 3 years.
No, no problem. I'm here. Oh my
Okay,
God,
then.
you've dedicated so much time to it, really, and it's really commendable, to be honest. Really.
Thank you. It's my side hustle. We're looking for money. It's my side hustle. Yeah,
No
you have
worries.
side
It will blow up. It will blow up. It has even blown, but the money
hustle.
aspect will blow up soon.
I want to put 45 grand money so that we'll set up a proper studio. I'll be avoiding network like this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It will come to pass.
Okay, Bernice.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Wow, wow, wow. Like I'm blowing siren right now. Benny, this episode was litty. Yep, so we've come to the end of episode 102 with Bernice. Thank you, Aki friends, for listening. For my new listeners, I hope you learned something from this episode. If you're a fashion designer, if you work in the fashion space, or you're a relevant stakeholder like myself, please share this episode with anyone within the fashion industry. And shout out to Sheyi Vandy for my intro. I have a new intro. I'm sure you guys have heard it already. And outro as well. Thank you so much, Vandy. I really do appreciate it. You guys can check him out with Sheyi Vandy on Twitter. And yep, signing off. See you in the next episode.